Good afternoon, everyone. Our panel 4 is about to start. And in this panel, we'll be discussing AI agents and autonomous decision making. We have our moderator, Tracy from followin.io, our speaker, Francesco from MetaMask, Audrey from the Spartan group, Abhi from Hetu protocol, and Prashan from FanTV. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Thanks for staying with us. This is Tracy from Followin, which is a Web3 content platform. We do content aggregator. So lovely to have all those guests from different industries talking about this AI agents and autonomous decision making. Yeah, sorry, I forgot the topic.
Title.
Yeah, so let's. Just without further ado, we do the short introduction of you guys, a little bit of background to our audiences. Yeah, we can start with Francesco.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or ladies first, maybe?
It's okay.
There you are.
I mean, we'll just have this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's up, everyone? Francesco. I'm a leading developer relation at MetaMask, Consensus Broader, and I'm also contributing to a DAO called MotorDAO, where basically we're building social graph for autonomous agents, and I've been building agents, since around 4 years. Testing different frameworks, and I'm excited now. All the agency business models are coming to Web3 Rails, and excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Great, MetaMask, big name. Right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Audrey Taylor. I'm CTO at Spartan Labs, which is an AI labs focusing on building at the intersection of Web3 and AI. I've been in the industry for almost 8 years now. I started out as a data scientist in the AI space and then kind of moved over to be a protocol developer about 4 years ago. And now my two loves are kind of coming together again. So I'm really excited about the space.
Thank you.
Hi, hey guys, I am Abhi. I am leading the protocol research at Hetu, and we are working towards a verifiable, trusted, decentralized network graph so that all the attributions or contributions done by any entity on chain. So there should be an off-chain mechanism using which you can actually track your attribution, so that the proper value distribution can be done. So be it any use case like AI agents, or decentralized science, or maybe when you pool the data to train more models, etc. I come from a very formal computer science background with a PhD. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Prashan. I'm currently building FanTV. It's an AI agent platform for content creation and consumption. We are the #1 project on the Sui blockchain with 8 million users and about 80,000 creators on the platform now. Prior to this, I built the largest music streaming app in India. It was called Ghana.com with about 200 million users, raised about $200 million from Tencent. And before that, I had founded a real estate startup called PropTiger, which I sold to News Corp. Very excited to be part of this panel.
Thank you, guys. Exciting to have all you here, and we really very diverse panelists. As a developer, working on MetaMask, and also, I know Spartan doing investment, but I don't know. You just moved so much into AI thing, right? So.
Yeah, I can comment on that. So Spartan is actually, there's 3 arms. There's the investment arm. We have over $500 million that we've been investing into Web3, also AI as part of our infrastructure fund. And then we have an advisory that does mergers and acquisitions, token launches.
Great.
And then I work with the third, lesser known comparatively, which is the lab. So we do internal building for Spartan Group, internal building of projects ourselves, as well as helping launch with small groups of builders that want distribution.
Yeah, good to know. I think East Denver was a great opportunity to share something new, right, about Spartan, what Spartan literally doing.
Yeah.
It's great. And then from Hetu, doing infra, right? So very important. And Prashan doing more application side. But this is a part we also very much in the industry, people looking for the killing apps always, right? I hope it can be the one. So my general question for everybody is so you've been here for East Denver a couple of days. From your observation, or your own understanding. So what are your main focus? You can share some insights in general. That need to be related with your, what you are doing. But you can see like some buzzword you found out here, or you are interested in. You can share with your observation.
You mean like what is interesting around the endeavor?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, different things, right? On the AI agent side, definitely like I hear more and more conversation around different frameworks. ELIZA, kind of like ELIZA alternatives. I think there is a lot of like Python developer coming also like into the space. They're looking for very similar frameworks. The other big things I'm hearing more is like integration partners for frameworks around ELIZA. And then on the other side is like for deployment, so inference model, like project like Gaia. Like there is a lot of different ones. So I think decentralized AI is kind of like coming out. I think it's still a buzzword because still a lot of decentralized AI providers are running their infrastructure on AWS or something. But apart that, these are the kind of the two main things.
Interesting. Audrey?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking this is a small group, so I'll share my real thoughts, I guess. But like what has surprised me the most is when we're talking about AI and decentralized AI, I think that we're not like going for it as much as I thought or I feel we could. Like when we're talking about these frontier models, we're talking about like seismic shifts in how we like interact with each other, how we interact with the internet, how we pay for things, how we discover things. So to me it's a seismic shift, but I feel I would have liked to see like more people going for like crazy things, like this is the new internet, and like this is agents are the future, and so, or AI is the future. So I was actually, there's little hits of it, but I was surprised. Like I feel like we need bigger projects that are like thinking bigger time frames, because AI is moving so fast, and we have to catch up.
So AI again. It's everything, right? Or it's everywhere here.
Yeah, especially like autonomous agents, like just that idea, autonomous agents. So eventually we will not be trying to book a hotel. We will have an agent that's booking our hotel, right? So if that happens, like that means how you market, how hotels start to market has to change, how the internet change, how payments to the hotel changes, how we like everything has to be like the whole paradigm has to shift. So it's like seismic. It's huge. Yeah.
Totally agree. So if it works like what Zuckerberg said one day, like he was saying probably the number of agents will overpass the human beings, number in the future, right? Let's say like in 20 years. So agents won't go to the bank and say, hey, I'll open a bank account, right? So they will do the autonomous things, between or among all those agents. So it's very interesting to discover. I mean, this is the interesting things.
And we didn't even spoke about agent-to-agent collaboration, right? There is a lot of like different things, different paradigm that will shift. I think we're extremely early around agent-to-agent collaboration. Right. Like there is not enough kind of like standard or frameworks being defined for AI agent builders. But I think we're getting there, right? You already start seeing like Lagrange or ELIZA frameworks building also some specs. I even saw like IP. Last week they also came up with a specific spec around IP for specific agents, but it's not enforced, right? So that's why it kind of like still quite early.
Yeah, I see people building this specific AI agents, infra just for AI agents, right? That's super cool, right? Let's just see how Abhi, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, I think it kind of very like it depends in which circle you run into, because at Denver, like I know some friends who are doing interoperability even after like 6-7 years of this debate going on. So it seems like there are so many bad ideas. It's about choosing the best bad one. And if you go a little on the parallels, because I was part of a Solana-based startup last year, and those friends, they are doing some, I don't know, like some very crazy thing on meme coins, plus they have to scale things, and also on the side they bitch about Ethereum not being up to the mark yet. And especially in this side, we see more decentralized AI and agents, yet there's like a big parallel in between them, but people are mostly focusing on on a slight intersection where, because these things collide with each other when you think about the data or the model that your AI or your agent will end up using, because like an agent framework that does not make money necessarily on its own, so you have to build like a whole ecosystem around it. So it sort of depends like which circle you are on, but I think we are at a very early stage.
Early stage, right? We're still early.
Yeah.
But people are working on that, right?
Yeah.
At least.
No, see, I think, much like what Audrey said, I think the entire UX of the world is going to change. We have 100 apps that we interact on a daily basis, booking hotels, booking this, booking that. I think, suddenly what will happen is the phone will go silent. There'll be just one personal assistant doing everything on the back. So it'll be like going back to the 90s, you have like one channel that you're watching content on, and basically, the personal assistant is kind of doing everything on your behalf. So I think one is the UX will go through a complete change over the next 5 to 10 years. What I'm particularly excited about is that when you look at evolution of businesses or social platforms, much like us, what happened is that Web3 came in 10 years later. So there's basically a huge leap that Web2 platforms had already had in terms of Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, et cetera, and to be able to kind of compete with those platforms today after, they being there, having, millions and hundreds of millions of MAUs and stuff like that. In AI, I think the biggest unlock is that Web2 and Web3 are starting day zero together. And Web3 has some inherent advantages in terms of having, crypto as kind of the payment rail. It becomes much more seamless, autonomous, a lot of ways to kind of make sure that, the rewards are given to people who actually build the platforms. What needs to happen is that we need to move very fast in terms of user, like market-ready agents, as I call them, which is basically solving the real problems of the user rather than just obsessing about infra. Because in Web3 we keep building infra, and Web2 people build the apps. So I think that opportunity is there today, and Web3 should kind of embrace it so that Web2 doesn't win this game, and Web3 kind of wins this game. That's the way I look at it.
No, we definitely need more like higher level dApps developer, right? Because I feel like this space has so many kind of like protocol and kind of frameworks dApps. And the other thing is that I'm very critical of this cycle, especially because like apart meme coin, there is not a lot of like value being created, and AI agencies actually bringing fresh air of Web2 strong developers. So like I'm calling it like smart brain injection or something, and I think like is really coming from that. And the perfect scenario here is that Web3 Rails is providing extra values for them to actually building on chain. And it's really beautiful because this is what really Web3 has to offer. People can openly build in public. They have access to DeFi and specific kind of like endpoints, and they can really interact truly on chain. And I think that's where it's coming. The space is coming super interesting, and that's why like mostly of these agent builders, they're all like PhDs coming from Super Web2. They are coming because like the Web3 Rails, and that's fascinating also. And I'm super happy that this is happening in this cycle, because if not, we were speaking only about meme coins and such.
Yeah, still, yeah.
I just want to add to that. Like, I'm also like, just to also say that's what excites me the most, is because we were talking about like in Web 2, agents inherently are like second-class citizens. Like the Web 2 was built for humans. When you look at all of the infrastructure, payments, like UI, UX, everything is built for humans. So agents are second-class citizens. But now, decentralized AI makes it to where we can build protocols and we can build applications where agents are autonomous, and they can actually be first-class citizens in those protocols.
Wait, but still is a human behind those agents, right?
Well, so in a way, equal. Like you have, you have companies where there's like payment, for example. There's agents that are hiring humans, right? So you might be hired by an AI agent that needs you to like do something or like audit some code if you're a developer, for example. So eventually you might have an agent boss, right? Or if you're a content creator, you might be not even thinking about content creating for humans. You'll be content creating for agents, because agents are the ones that are going to recommend to the human, what they should buy or what they should consume. So yeah, in some ways, agents might. I mean, obviously, we don't want AI overlords, but eventually there will be more. There will be more interactions with agents and humans in a more equal way. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was chatting with Shaw last week, and he was basically speaking about that. You will start to add data to pages, to images. That is basically LLM data files that agents can actually scrape and make actually use to. And that's super exciting.
Yeah, like we're building a website, and on the first page of the website, it's like, this website is not optimized for humans. It's for agents. And then in the website, it's just a plain page, and all of the information is basically injected. So if an agent were to scrape it, they would get at the info. And then if you are human, click here if you want to see a human interface. And I think a lot of websites eventually are going to be like that. They're going to be optimized for scraping, because that's how agents would learn about the services more quickly.
But like now, most of the website we have the human verification, but later on we're gonna have agents verification.
Yeah,
we don't need to do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, know your agents is already happening, right?
Oh,
so it's
super cool.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And also, we are assuming that agents will actually speak our languages. But I don't know if you saw this demo about two LLMs actually speaking with each other.
Ooh.
They were basically they were not speaking our languages. They were optimizing their own languages. So I don't think there will be a scenario where we will deploy Treasury to agents because they're providing a service, but they will not really need us, right? That's why agent-to-agent coordination is a big topic. But I don't think we have still the fundamental today that we can actually speak about, right? We still don't have standards. It looks like we are back when NFT didn't have the ERC specs, so that you can actually move from OpenSea to a variable. So it's super early, yeah.
Yeah, it's still early. I do have a question for MetaMask. So I'm gonna have a very individual question for each of you, but I can start with Francesco. I did a survey via my Twitter a couple of weeks ago. I was asking how many people still using. We want to be real, okay? I was talking about facts. So how many people still using your MetaMask during this bull run? And most of my followers. So that was 60% even didn't touch MetaMask during this bull run, because we do lots of on Solana thing, right? So as a developer, head of developer on MetaMask, so how do you see the performance for MetaMask during the paradigm time, and how you align with this new AI thing with your wallet?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, your question is super on point. Yesterday we had a big we run builder night where Dan Finley spoke actually 1 hour on specific frameworks, right? And actually, he was basically saying what the next way where wallet, post Spectra, 7702 is coming, permissions. So we are basically preparing for, especially on the developer tooling side, we're running something called Gator, so delegation toolkit, where you can actually build permissions. We have full native SDK that you can actually natively embed your dApps. And then also something you're working on is both embedded wallets and also seedless onboarding. If you're asking your stats, the only stat that he gave yesterday that can actually make it public is 2024, there were around 220 million total active users. And 250, 230 or something. Oh, yeah. It was actually quite a lot. I mean, I can speak mostly about developers, and around developer framework, a lot of people are starting their journey with obviously MetaMask, but also Flask, or the Canary version of MetaMask. But I mean, this is not just post Bybit, but we definitely see also a big interest around and focus around security, and we've been always building in public. We're building all this kind of infrastructure called MetaMask Naps that you can actually build on top and extend the functionality of what MetaMask is today. So if you're a more, let's say, security-focused person, or if you're a more DeFi-heavy person, you can actually install those Naps on your wallet today. So it's actually quite fascinating. And I think from also the TLDR from yesterday, with the embedded wallet, with the seedless onboarding, is super exciting. What will happen in the next 6 to 12 months?
For AI part, any development or
Yeah.
innovation you're
So
working
we are
on?
we are researching agent right now on a siloed. There is different way that actually agents can interact with agent consumer or wallet consumers on the interface level, on the snaps level. But I think like there will be a mix on that, right? Because also the question is mobile versus extension. But I think in the future we will see wallet taking more decision and automatizing specific tasks. Could be like DeFi heavy task, taking loans on Aave, borrowing, risk-taking, or could be even like social tasks or payments, right? Or even like very specific task like, for example, auto switch between networks. You already, you have also token detection already. There are different kind of like small tasks, but that's super exciting, and we're basically continuing cooking and shipping.
That's important. I really care about the longevity of MetaMask. I hope I can keep using it, right? To swap my assets or transfer my asset from one to another easily, right? So I don't have that challenging to cope with.
I think it's important also to distinguish like, if you want to build a resilient community, also like you want to make sure you do it also the right way. You don't want to ship features that they are actually anti, let's say, Web3, right? Example, like social recovery on email, or like if you're building something, you want to make sure that you're building on Web3 rails and you're actually like building in public. And then, at the end, it's also very important to see, it's also like user research, right? You can see if you're building in public, if the user care about, you have also closed source wallet. You have infrastructure that are not run in the same way. There are different things, and right now we hope actually like people understand, how important it is to first building on a permissionless innovation level, but also like open sourcing stack, building on Web3 rails. If you want to start doing account recovery, you have actually true account recovery that is built on top of like, I don't know, Shamir, secret sharing kind of like values versus social recovery that's run through your email, right? Different things. And then on the security side, this is all background. The research that is done and implemented is stuff like, rechecking malicious contract when you're actually run transaction. So there are different kind of ways on different vertical that we'll be working on.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the MetaMask latest movement. For Audrey, I know Spartan been lately investing in many AI projects. So as a CTO from Spartan, so I have two questions for you. Number one is like how you value the early stage AI startups. So what makes you want to invest into those company, and how that like AI thing related to your research for later on the whole industry involvement, right?
Yeah, in some ways, the investment fundamentals are still the same. Like you look for a good team, you look for a defensible product, you look for people that are shipping fast, etc. But in some ways, AI has changed how you evaluate, projects also, because there are ways to build faster, to get to prototypes more quickly, to do more with smaller teams. Sometimes you can't just like come with an idea and say, hey, I have this idea, give me $1 million and I'll build it. Because then the question is like, well, why didn't you build it? Because like there are tools, and even if you're, like non-technical, there are enough tools to get you at least to a prototype, or at least to where you can start building community or validating an idea. So in a way, there's an expectation of people moving faster, doing more with less, and not needing as much initial investment in order to get started. And that in the AI space is like even more. But we definitely are looking like for applications, because there are so much infrastructure happening. But we do have also like a gaming fund, and we do gaming or other types of like cultural things, investments through that fund. So a lot of applications that are innovative and using AI in creative and innovative ways for niche markets or things like that. Yeah, so I guess in general, just about my research around AI, I think that there was a talk about investment in models and like decentralized models, but I think that the model itself is becoming very commoditized. So it's not really like who can build the best model, who can fine tune the biggest model, and it's more what can you do with it, what innovative products can you build with models, because the models are getting better, open source models are getting stronger, the ability to fine tune models is becoming cheaper. So it's more like what can you do with AI as opposed to like can you actually build the AI model itself,
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's super important. I mean, to have all those, but like a big Web2 company like OpenAI or DeepSeek, and they have very good, let's say, tools to help the Web3 AI companies to grow, right, in a different way.
Yeah, I mean,
just can't use that.
Yeah, especially DeepSeek because it's open source, so it's like you can take those models and you can fine tune it if you need it, or you can use other systems to like make it more personalized for your use cases. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of powerful things to do.
Yeah, I think the road to MVP it got accelerated extremely, right? So now people are able to actually build MVPs and testing much faster. So I think that's super exciting, especially for like developers, right? You can really start building. I mean, not maybe on production, but at least on the MVP side, and there are already testing frameworks. That are super useful for them.
Yeah, I think that like the challenges before with like launching a startup is always like getting a developer, the technical part of it. But now that technical piece is becoming less and less a barrier. So now it's about your insights, your creativity, your outlooks, your perspectives, how you can deliver, like your style and all of those things that are not as quantifiable as like the code. Those are the more important things than just can you build it,
I'll maybe add a bit here to what Audrey said. I think pretty interesting that the last 20 years, all the innovation that happened was basically led by techies. So while I didn't know travel, I didn't know music, I was not the expert in music, I'm not the expert in filmmaking, but all the innovation, all the startups that you see were pretty much people coming out of tech school, engineers, building those startups. With AI coming in, I think it's basically opened the, field wide open for people who are basically, more business oriented than tech oriented to be able to actually take the leap front. So what will happen is the edge that techies had in terms of building startups will start to wane away, and there's basically people who are smart, they're street smart, they could be creative, they could be just good negotiators, they understand the industry better. Those are the people now they will win in the next cycle of startups.
For startups, the tech barrier getting smaller and smaller, but more like your product market fit or your go-to-market strategy, mainly like operation part, super important, right? I think. For Abhi, right? I know lately Hetu has lots of milestones, right? And the most part I heard is like one thing reduce the total on-chain cost, and another is the collaboration, the part with AI. Could you elaborate a little bit on how those developments happen?
Yeah, so basically, fundamentally, in the case of AI agents, for example, so they are not a new thing. Like they have been existing in multiple forms in the past, like AI chatbots. Well, they are not new, but now with the advent of like AI, like especially with the open source thing, now everybody wants to have a piece of this whole pie. But the problem is, like, we have to have some fundamental guarantees out of that. For example, the biggest influencer on social media right now is an AI agent.
Oh.
Yeah. But the problem is there is no way of knowing that if that agent is for real or not, or if there is any human being behind it. So that is one of the problems. And at Hetu, we sort of conjunct all small problems like this. For example, starting with infra. So you have to have infra so that all the agents that are communicating with each other, they should have some level of attribution plus verifiability built inherently on top of this. Meaning you should just not be able to interact with it, but you should be able to know that who I'm interacting with. And the data, that any activity on-chain or off-chain is generating, that value should be fairly distributed. If you can't figure out, for example, who did what and exactly what's the impact on the end application, you cannot distribute the value. And I think value distribution was the biggest challenge in the first year. So with Hetu, we have built this decentralized knowledge graph, which is not just any graph, but it has certain guarantees built, meaning you have these verifiable logical clocks that actually tracks every user action. So there is modularity between the base chain, meaning where everybody is fighting for the block size, the block space. And then there is an intermediate layer of communication. For example, when at this moment, whenever like AI agents are talking, they're still talking in a peer-to-peer way. There is no accountability, there is no memory structure. So if you have this memory structure, meaning that you can solve this part of the puzzle where their communications are attributable, and that's where we fit in. So I think with our current testnet launch, we are just inching towards this solution. I think Story Protocol published the recent, like not that recent, but like a few months ago, where they said that akin to this TCP IP model that basically is the backbone of the classical internet, we also need this in the case of agentic interactions. And out of the fundamental structure of, like, they had like 5 points ingrained. First was the memory structure, and the last was the chain. So you basically have to start with a memory structure on a peer-to-peer communication layer, and then end up on a base chain or an L2 or L1, where the process data from that initial memory structure will be made like persistent. So that's where we build end-to-end solution.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, this is like a super important problem, like to this, like, being able to verify the agent, if we're talking about agent to agent interactions and communication, being able to verify. And like going back to like the Web 2 is like human focused or human centric. Like if I send you an email, like there are mechanisms that have been created in Web 2 in order for you to verify it's me. Right. You can like look at the domain, so you can see, okay, it's coming from the Spartan group domain. Right. You can go to LinkedIn, you can like go to YouTube and see a you know, like a video, or we can have a chat or a voice call or like a video call where you can like see that I'm a real person. So like all of these mechanisms kind of exist for human to human interaction and verification of human to human interaction. But now all of those mechanisms need to be like rethought and recreated for agent to agent. Yeah, so that, and if I'm getting information to you as an agent and you're an agent, how do I verify like you are who you say you are, you representing who you said you represent, that all of those things, like all of those mechanisms have to be rebuilt.
Everyone talk about agent. Super important. For Prashan, I do have a question for you. It's a very successful existed entrepreneur in Web 2, you know, this Ghana, super big platform in India, right? And so what attracts you most getting you into Web3 space, and how this Web3 or blockchain technology help you to operate this FanTV platform?
A good question. See, basically, as part of building Ghana, what I also did was we produced about 250 songs with independent artists. We also produced like the biggest song in India today with about 2.5 billion streams on YouTube. With that experience, we worked with about 100 independent artists, and what we realized was the biggest challenge was funding, discovery, and distribution. Independent artists don't have funding. Very difficult to get funding as an independent artist. Second is discovery, because most of these centralized platforms, 90% of the views actually go to top 10% of the creators, and the rich becomes richer. So what happens is that the world is kind of moving towards ultra skew on the top creators, and that may not be the right thing. And decentralization is something that we all kind of live and breathe. And then monetization, because monetization, if you have million streams on Spotify or YouTube, the earnings are pretty less. So I think these three things, when you look at the Web3 world, I think these are the three things that we are trying to solve.
Can be solved, right?
Yeah, and basically we are saying with FanTV, one is the platform itself is owned by creators and users. About 40% of the tokens, go back to the community. So pretty much you are saying that, you own the platform. Secondly, from a discovery standpoint, I think the idea is that the community kind of gets a say in terms of how the discovery should be. Should you give 10% of the views, 90% to top 10% of the creators? You want to be more kind of, balanced. You want to kind of get the middle tier up so that there's, livelihood for all the creators who are mid-tail, but they are equally good in terms of creating content. And then from a distribution standpoint, how do you take them to, millions and millions of users so that the creator actually gets the reach and monetization from the fans and super fans. I think the waterfall pretty much is that you need to be first discovered, then you have some followers, then you have some fans, and then you have some super fans, then you have some monetization, correct? So if you don't get discovered, you never go down that funnel, you don't make nothing. So I think that's the beauty of this, is that while we solve for funding, discovery, and distribution, you get to own your IP, you get to own your content, you get to own the user base. So tomorrow, if you decide that, okay, I want to actually take my user base, go to some other platform because I think, I'm done here, and maybe I want to create my own platform. So today, if a Mr. Beast wants to take his community out of YouTube, not possible, correct?
Right.
So that's the kind of freedom that we are looking to, give back. And with AI agents, I think the beauty of this is, while when you look at the Web3 ecosystem, there's a lot of focus on DeFi and Twitter bots. We are focused on kind of a real world use case, which is content creation. And much like what both Francesco and Audrey said, is that the problem is of kind of volume. Because with AI, what's happening is there's a lot many startups which come to them for funding because MVP takes a day to build. So the engineer doesn't think about whether the business has some legs. Do I want to do this lifetime? Do I want to dedicate something? The guy sits in the evening, gets a MVP ready the next day, sends it across to Audrey, I want to raise funds. So I think it's not a very, very thoughtful process, and that's what you see in content, is that, supply was kind of constrained. There's huge demand, but that basically flips with AI, because tomorrow there'll be so much content that will be created through AI that, how do you figure out what needs to be, shown to the users, and that again becomes a big problem. So I think what will happen in the short term, there'll be a lot of content which will come from AI, and we'll get excited like a shiny new toy. But it will become undifferentiated, because you will get millions and millions of prompts which will look the same. Output will more or less be similar, and then it will back to human creativity, which kind of where AI generates like 90% of the content. You add some creativity, genuinity that the creator has to put that X factor on that content, and that's how I think. But the next 6 months or 8 months will be very, very crowded, where you'll see like millions of content being created every day.
Right.
So that's a big challenge for platforms.
I feel
like this.
maybe like Web3 content platform will be the easiest way for content creators to monetize their influence, right? Because like, for example, YouTube cannot be used in China, and those content creators cannot get there. Or we cannot add our Chinese, bank accounts to there to get the rewards. Very, very hard. You need to find the alternatives, right? So that's it.
Yeah, I think we just need to be careful on not siloing those kind of like platform, right? I see like the example of like Abstract, where basically they are pushing like all the streamers on. But for example, if I wanna build a streaming pipeline, I wanna kind of stream everywhere, right? So it's also quite tricky. Like we also need to build on the fundamentals, all the interoperability between full streams. But I think like one of the most important part that it never happened in history is that the content creator wanna own the IP and wanna own actually the track record. I see stuff like, I'm really happy to see like stuff like Farcaster, Warpcast on a protocol level actually defending the rights to actually move your community. The problem is always a problem of distribution, right? Because you're staying in YouTube because like the YouTube SEO ranking is actually very powerful, and the distribution is higher, right? So it's always kind of a chicken egg problem. But I agree 100% that we should have better rights for content creators to own really their data and all the community if they want to kind of move their community over.
Yeah. I'll just add one thing, maybe before Abhi. See, one of the things that is needed is that when we talk about entertainment, whether I'm a Web3 user, whether I'm a Web2 user, it doesn't matter. I have my needs, correct? I'll watch music in the morning, I'll watch some travel vlog in the afternoon, I'll watch some reels in the evening, I'll watch some crypto content at some point of time. And one of the things that in the Web3 space, which is not right, is that we are trying to spoon feed too much Web3 content. Because I won't be watching Web3 content for my 24 hours of my webcast or whatever platform I'm on. So we are over-indexing on the fact that we need to look at what are the content needs of the creator, of the user, and that's where you basically create a pipeline of content where you make sure that if a user is watching music, then you have depth of content in that category to be able to recommend him more music. If he's watching crypto vlogs, give him more crypto, but if he's looking at some vlogs, give him more vlogs. So I think content is the king in entertainment, and I think that's where a lot of platforms, they over-index on just kind of Web3 content, which makes it difficult. Even for Web3 user, they don't come and consume, they come for the token, go for the next token. And for Web2 user, there is no incentive to actually come to a platform and just consume Web3, crypto going up and down every day.
Yeah, we talk about it. Yeah, time running fast. So last but not least question, I would love to have you guys sharing your expectation into our 3 years, for good or bad, for the whole development in our industry. We can start with Francesco.
So 3 years, huh? I would say.
Okay, let's say.
No,
half a year?
Half a year, yeah.
Well, half a year,
no,
okay.
I think I really hope, speaking about agents specifically, we are building standards for agent builder to actually build on top of other kind of agents. I think there will be a very specialized and verticalized agents. We see that already. So feeding data will be actually the most valuable part. Having actually concrete and original data to train your vertical agent would be very important. And that's the most, I think, important part that we need to care about. And then to your points is, one of the first things that we should do is let's not reproduce something like DeFi Summer, reproduce with DEX forking. We had 50 DEXs in 1 month and a half where people got rocked like crazy because they didn't know, they just judged the DEXs because of the volume, right? So what we need is social graphs and a public open registry attestation around agents so that we can actually finally defend the user side, the agent consumer side, to actually understand which agent actually is giving the right values to who, right? And there are already stuff happening. With the XBT, you can already see, okay, this is the mindshare that in Kaito on social has, right? But when you will see 20, 30 XBT forks that are actually taking care of other socials, things are getting very, very dependent. And think about, these are still not agents with treasuries. When we're going with really true DeFi agents where actually manage treasury, rebalancing funds, that's another true story, and we need to be really careful on building this attestation and social graphs to defend those rights.
Ray, Audrey? Okay, half a year, not 3 years.
No, so I would say, what I would say is 2 to 3 years from now, I predict that 80% of transactions on chain will be done by an agent and not humans.
Huge. Yeah.
I think not in short term, but a general notion, Audrey said, 80% of content shall be done by agent, and be it agent or app-centric user data as far as the fair value distribution is concerned. We also need to make sure that on platform level, the value should not be leaked. Let me give you a small example of that. For example, I think Francesco will understand because in the EU, there is GDPR regulations.
Right. Yeah.
And you see in year, 2 years, you see, hey, Apple was fined, Meta was fined,
right.
Google was fined in violation of GDPR. And these guys are fined on the scale of billions of dollars. So meaning they are putting a price on the data. But the end user never sees this price to themselves.
Maybe they will have new regulation for agents. Who knows?
No, see, I think looking out, I think the biggest fear that I have is centralized platforms have been kind of ruling the roost for the last 20 years. If AI really takes over and these are the same platforms which have a hugely successful personal assistant which is doing everything on the background and the user actually adopts to that personal assistant, maybe it's ChatGPT, whatever else, then what happens is we end up in the same era again where you have 5 centralized companies which are pretty much because there'll be millions of agents, but the user has no bandwidth to talk to millions of agents. He'll talk to maximum 5 agents. So we need to make sure that we are good enough, that we are, some Web3 companies are there in those 5 or 10 agents, which is basically becoming the default medium to kind of access transactions, content, etc. Otherwise, we'll go back to the centralized, world pretty soon, where, these companies will again rule for the next 10 years or 20 years. So that's one fear that I have, of course.
Let's build a beautiful Web3 world, decentralized, pure, free. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
It's a
Thank you.
super nice chat.